When I was 25 and a half, I started a podcast. The goal? To review some of the newest and the latest movies, along with some other stuff. With the help of my guests, I was able to do this, but there were dark forces tampering with my podcast, and with me. They called it an improvised podcast for some reason. I eventually found help in the form of myself. Yes, the me from a universe where the movies I reviewed got delayed. Apparently, my podcast made it to his universe. I know now that it is my duty, for the good of that universe, nay, the multiverse, to keep recapping and reviewing these movies, to hold listeners over until they could eventually see the movies as they were made in their world. For some reason, they come out differently in my world, but it's kind of entertaining that way. My name is Steven Shinder, and this is Delayed Replay. Hello, listeners. This is editor Steven here, kind of from the future. I'm reminiscing on this episode of Delayed Replay about Reminiscence that I recorded with my friend, whom you will be introduced to in a moment. But remember on the previous episode when me and Kelsey talked about Sing 2? Well, at the end of that episode, I accidentally referred to this movie as Reminisce, but of course it's called Reminiscence. But obviously on this episode, we got it right. We referred to it as Reminiscence. Like, we totally got it right. But enough reminiscing for now. Without further delay, listen to the episode. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that came out on time in our universe because they got delayed in that other universe. I'm your host, as always, Steven Shinder, and joining me on this episode, he's never been on this show before, but might have mentioned him like once or twice before. He's the editor of the Just Two Lads podcast. We've heard Kelsey and Andres from there on here on occasions. And he also has like his own YouTube channel where he talks about video games. So without further ado, it is Marco Miranda. How are you doing?
Hey, what's up, homie? I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good. I got my water with me, in case sometimes my like throat gets dry during these things if we're like so into it while talking. So it's nice to have that by my side.
Yep, I got my water too, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, like
Because
sometimes I forget to drink it, and it's like at the end of the show, I'll be like, oh shoot, I forgot to drink it.
But yeah, I think we're gonna need it because let me tell you, we just got out of our memory machines just covered in water.
Oh yeah, like here, like it's still kind of running, but yeah, this movie we're talking about, it's called Reminiscence, and stars Hugh Jackman, involves a memory machine that allows clients to experience past memories. This came out in April for us. I know for that other universe, it's coming out sometime soon, like mid-August. This will be out by then. So we used this machine to refresh our memories about it. So how are you feeling? Like, what was that experience of going into it like for you?
You know what? I really enjoyed the movie the first time, and I gotta say, the second time, I think I liked it pretty more, my guy. It's really hard to say too because there's just so many crazy. It's one of those movies that really likes to throw in hints at you. So your second time around, and I'm sure when I go back into the memory machine, I'm just gonna notice more and more hints, and I'm just gonna be more mind blown, dude.
Yeah, that's interesting because for me, like the first time I watched it in the theater, I was like really into it. It was like pretty enjoyable. But the second time I going through it again, like it was kind of nice, like having that same feeling of the air conditioned theater, the recliners, and like the popcorn and Coke that I had at the time. But I kind of noticed like little things here and there that weren't as cool as I remembered. So yeah, it'll be interesting like delving into it. But yeah, this movie delves a lot with nostalgia, which I find interesting because it feels like other things that are really familiar. Like, I don't know about you, but
Lots of people have been saying it feels like a Christopher Nolan movie, even though it isn't. And when Hugh Jackman is in the water in that thing, it kind of reminded people of like X-Men Origins Wolverine when he like gets out of that tub.
Yeah, I definitely got those Christopher Nolan vibes. This movie, the look of it and just the suspense of it definitely gives me those Nolan vibes, like Inception, especially Inception.
Yeah.
I definitely got that feel with this movie.
Hey, listeners, this is editor Steven again. I was just reminiscing about how, we made these comparisons to Christopher Nolan movies. Well, I just remembered that a couple months ago, my friend Greg, who was on this show, he told me off air that the director of Reminiscence, Lisa Joy, is actually married to Jonathan Nolan, who, of course, is the brother of Christopher Nolan and has worked with him. So maybe that kind of explains the Nolan-esque feel. So just throwing that in there in case any listeners think it's weird that we didn't mention that connection. Like, I completely forgot about it during the recording of the episode. But speaking of Greg, remember all those episodes of Delayed Replay that I recorded with him? Yeah, you should listen to them. Oh man, so many good memories. There was, I don't know, I think the 355 was one of them, and there were some others. Go give them a listen. But anyway, enough reminiscing. Without further delay, back to the episode. Yeah, it's weird because this was written and directed by Lisa Joy, who apparently is the co-creator of the HBO series Westworld. Have you ever seen that show or the original movie it's based on?
I have seen the first episode of Westworld and I was like, this is so cool. And then I just forgot to watch the rest of it. I think it was because it was on HBO and I was just watching it at someone else's house.
Yeah,
I definitely got the Westworld vibes too, especially because just slight spoiler alert for Westworld. I believe Westworld also takes place in a futuristic setting where you can kind of plunge yourself into a different world. So I definitely got those writer vibes where it's just like, I want to explore more of this. And so they make another movie. You know how it is, where it's just like you go through like so many different types of ideas and you just decide to keep exploring that same topic.
Yeah, it's almost like another way of injecting, because this movie's about nostalgia, and I kind of wonder if reusing ideas is kind of the point of this. I've never seen the Westworld TV show. I know my brother has seen it and he really loves it. I've only seen the original movie, which was boring as heck, to be honest. But I've heard that the show is like a lot better, so I might check that out someday. But what'd you think of this setting of like it's this future where like the water has been rising and war broke out? Like, what'd you think about how this was presented?
Depressing, very depressing, because it's just like you know, climate change is a thing, and it's just like, damn, is this is this where we're going to with the rising sea levels? It does feel like a bit at times where it could just seem like where it could seem a little overly nihilistic, I think, if that's the right word. Just overly depressing. But it was super interesting, especially with some of the ideas that was put into the script. Like the whole fact that nostalgia is a way of life, and a lot of people try to relive the memories, and that's such a hot commodity. Like, so they're talking about how just rich people within this world, like if you're wealthy, they're just spending all their time in their memories. Like they're just trying to escape this world, and it's just like, that makes sense. If you're able to escape this reality, it's like no one wants to live in this bleak world just covered in water.
Yeah, it's almost like people who are able to like get HBO subscription budget and like sort of escape from all that. This kind of, I just saw this, but this kind of feels like it could be like a prequel to that cheesy Universal movie from the 90s, Waterworld. You know, the one that Universal Studios has. Like, surprisingly, that movie wasn't its own franchise, despite the concept being interesting.
I've never seen Waterworld, but I've heard so many people just not like Waterworld.
Yeah, it could be it really could have been executed better. Like I feel like Waterworld is ripe for a reboot.
Uh-huh.
Like they could definitely do it. And like this is like obviously Reminiscence does not focus so much on like being in this fully ocean covered world. Like it's like it's at the very begin like early stages of the water covering like all these places. But
Mhm.
yeah, like it very much touches on the classism part of it. Like if you can't afford this like this reliving memories commodity, it's like, oh, tough luck. It just
Yeah.
deal with the present.
Oh yeah, just tough. Just deal with like your shoes are gonna be wet all the time, my dude. Like
Yeah.
I hate wet shoes, so I can't imagine being someone living in this time period where it's just like, oh, I felt so sorry for a bunch of these characters.
Yeah, what's sad is they don't even have those jackets from Back to the Future 2 that have
Uh-huh.
like built-in dryers. Like those would be very useful in this.
Right? How did no one like invent that by that time? He would have been rich. He would have been able to live his nostalgia all the time.
Yeah. So Hugh Jackman's character, whose name is Nick, let me just, oh, I gotta like remember, like, I was just in the machine. Oh yeah, it was Nick Bannister. That was his name. Um, he's like, getting these clients and we see montages of like the different things that they experience.
Uh-huh.
Like there's, a really old person who like goes in and they relive memories of like going into a video store, and that moment made me feel really old, like I
Right?
gotta tell you, because like this person was like in their 50s or something, and
Uh-huh.
it's like, oh well, I feel old now because I remember video stores.
Yeah, I know. It's just like it was like looking at a picture of us, and I'm just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
no. But yeah, it was really interesting. The montage was like super interesting because you have all of these people going in back, reliving their memories. There's this really sad one of this guy, like just middle-aged guy going back into the relive his memories, and he's just like a child, and he's just with his parents, and then like later on you find out that he's an orphan, and it's just like, oh, bro, like just hitting you with the feels like immediately.
Yeah, it was kind of like they took like that segment felt like a story into itself, you know.
Yeah.
It felt very much like the opening of Up, like how that it could have been its own thing and just ended there, you know. But here it's like they insert it like kind of in the middle. Actually, today I watched this documentary on Netflix called The Last Blockbuster, and well, it's kind of funny that I ended up watching that today. But like that dealt with the nostalgia of like going into video stores and like actually feeling the physical copy, and like I mean even today, like in our real world, there are lots of movies that feel very much like they're trying to feed you nostalgia, like for better or worse.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
well, like there's been so much like 80s nostalgia over the past decade or so, and like a little bit of 90s in recent years, I guess.
Well, I think the thing is, it's like always like 30 years back is when people get the most nostalgic for. So 90s is coming up soon.
Yeah. Hey, listeners, editors, Steven, yet again. Oh, this part of the episode reminds me. Remember the Ghostbusters Afterlife episode last year that I recorded with Joey Mays? We kind of touched upon how there's so much 80s nostalgia and maybe 90s nostalgia is just around the corner. Oh, good times. Yeah. I'm not going to play a clip. Just go back and listen to it. Okay, without further delay, back to the episode. And I mean, even the Roaring Twenties, like people still like to dress like that, and you even see people in this movie like trying to replicate those types of outfits.
Yeah, the outfits. I remember looking in the where they were projecting, you know how they project some of the memories and people are just dressed up in those like the 20s. It would like go from like 20s, 30s to like around the 50s, I think. And it was just like, damn, they really like those outfits, but like not gonna lie, they look good. But yeah, it was interesting. And it seems like it really touched up on this point where a lot of people were nostalgic, not just for like their own lives, but it seemed like for like a time that seemed uh how do you say it, like not normal, I guess normal for a place that's just where they didn't have to worry, especially the 50s part. It seemed like that a lot of people were nostalgic for a time they never lived in because they just wanted a sense of just safety and just carefreeness. And it was like, damn, like there was a lot of interesting subjects brought up in this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because obviously in like decades past, like the 50s or whatever, like not everyone was happy, but we get reruns of different sitcoms and things that show kind of like the good things, and they kind of show like a sanitized version of all these different decades. And so in this movie, you get like people mentioning like old shows like Perfect Strangers from the 80s, or like Happy Days, like all sorts of different things. And like these kind of inform their view of what they think those past decades were like, even though like when you get right down to it, it was all like artificial in a studio, you know?
Yeah, I was really digging this movie. I think you can hear it from my like how I describe it, but this movie was really dope. Should we get into the plot of the movie?
Yeah, like the big thrust of it is like this romance between Nick and this woman he meets named May. Like they have this love affair, and then like how'd you think about how that played out, and then how she vanished and how it became like really desperate to like find where like what happened to her?
It was really interesting, especially because she comes in like super early in the movie and they have this whole big love affair thing, and then it feels like she's the perfect woman, you know? Like she's such a like cool character, and we only get to see her for like the first 15 or 20 minutes or so, and then she just vanishes, and it's just like, oh man, like it was just crazy. I was like, oh man, like she seems so cool, and it's just like she was ripped away like so quick. And then we get to the mystery of the movie, you know?
Yeah, I honestly kind of feel like they could have had her a bit longer than that amount of time. Like I feel like the movie really could have benefited from that, so we would have gotten to know her a little bit more. But like we do get into the memories of her. Like so there's this other character called Watts, who's played by Thandie Newton. I think that's how it's pronounced. And May is played by Rebecca Ferguson. Like there are lots of actors in this movie, and some of them play like the different clients and like other people, and it's like a really cool cast. But yeah, so Watts says that Hugh Jackman's character like tries doing like a search for May, like via internet, and like he does like his own detective work around town, and he meets Watts, who says that she kind of knows her, but like when he looks into her memories, like it's not exactly what he originally thought of her, is it?
Yeah, she's like a femme fatale, you know? She seemed like this almost like a crime boss. Like she's no good, dude. Like I was like, "Oh, damn. Dude, what did Nick get himself into?" Because this was like I was blown away when we first saw her. Like she was just you just saw like this memory, and someone's just watching the TV, and then it's just like, oh, they're talking about this whole heist, and it's just like you see the footage, the security footage, and then guess who shows up in the security footage? It's May.
Yeah.
I was shook, dude.
Yeah, like even though it was in black and white, she was pretty recognizable. Watts is kind of like she works in security, so she sees all this stuff. And if there's also a memory where like she tries, like May's underlings kind of like catch her because she's trying to investigate, and like Watts witnesses firsthand like what a ruthless crime boss like May is. She's willing to like punish like any of like her underlings, like send them out to like throw them in the water basically if they don't do their job really well. And it's yeah, like Nick is very very shocked by this, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it was crazy. I I didn't even see it coming too, because I will be honest, I'm one of those people who like tries not to watch too many trailers before going into this movie.
Right.
So this whole like detective noir type feel just was out of nowhere for me. So I was like, oh damn, like it was honestly, it was super cool. And like I said, I got a little more of those Westworld vibes with it, with the whole like mystery of it also.
Yeah, I do think it did get a little bit goofy whenever Nick would have his inner thoughts. Like you'd hear the voiceover, and in those moments, everything turns black and white, like just for like half a minute or however long he's like thinking to himself, and then it goes back to color once he's finished like thinking to himself. Like I thought that was a bit cheesy, but I don't know, like does this work? Am I like looking at it just differently from how everyone else does?
I get you. I thought that was a little cheesy too. I think they were trying to go for that like artistic like look to it too,
Yeah,
like you know,
nostalgia,
something,
whatnot.
yeah, like Casablanca type of look, because like you know, with the whole like older 50s 40s look within the memories, I was like, okay, I think I see what they're trying to go for here.
Yeah, like some of that black and white stuff is comfort food to some people. Like I think it automatically evokes this feeling of a simpler time, even though like again, like beyond the film, like in real life, there was still like some stuff going on. It's just that within the films themselves, it's basically escapism. And yeah, it was also kind of funny how some people would go into this machine to experience movies that are no longer available, or like theatrical cuts of the original Star Wars trilogy for those who are like old enough to like see it. And it's like those moments were kind of relatable.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely, especially being able to relive those like feelings again, man. Like there's nothing like seeing something in the theaters, or like you know, I think they had just like that quick moment with like the kind of jockey, like kind of chubby looking, you know, like the 40s 50 dad, your like dad vibes, where it's just like he's going and he's seeing like a hockey game in the montage. I was just that made me laugh. I was like, yeah, I could see that as my dad.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like so much going on in this. Like Nick is obviously like, after he sees the memories, he's like in denial about this whole thing. Like he yells like, "No, this is not how I remember her. Where is she?" And Watts is like trying to reason with him and be like, "Look, people don't always present who they actually are. Like you have to understand that." Like, and that line was like really thought-provoking, because I feel like depending on who you interact with, you'll always present a different version of yourself. Like they'll always be at least slightly different from how you interact with someone else, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There was a lot of that going on. It was really interesting too, because I think they really followed that up with some of the later in the story too. You know how they're going into the memories and just trying to like look for clues about May's disappearance, and you could tell in one of the scenes they kind of do like play a scene like two times. But like the first time they show it, like earlier in the movie, it's just it seems so perfect, like how we were talking about how May seemed like the perfect woman. And then the second time they go back, like when he's going back with Watts, and you can kind of see the manipulation playing and how it changed some of the things around in the memory too. Which was crazy. It kind of reminded me like it was like a representation of like when someone's gaslighting someone else, being like, no, you don't remember it like that. But the subtle hints she threw in, where it was just like, you know, she talks about, oh, this date they went on to the memories of these like zoos and how they're looking at like lions and tigers, but the second time they go around it's like a giraffe, and it's just like they never even saw the lions or the tigers, because like big cats died out a lot longer before in this time period. And I was like, damn, dude, powerful.
Yeah, they keep the time period very vague because I guess they
Yeah.
don't want to commit to like a particular year that this
Hmm.
could take place in. Like they kind of want to be like this could happen any year in the future or something, I guess.
Yeah. I think they just kind of try to make it be like, yo, this is like late 2000s, like
Like late 21st century,
yeah,
something.
like late 21st century. But yeah, I think that was a little bit of a kind of notch within the movie. I wish they kind of just committed to like a time period, you know?
Just make it 2022 next
Right.
year.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, now Nick is wondering if there's like, because he looks up these conspiracy theories online. Like, there's some people who believe that artificial memories can be placed into
Mhm.
people's minds. And he's kind of wondering if that's what's going on. And I mean, this movie, like, with the like going back into memories thing, it reminded me also of this Jake Gyllenhaal movie Source Code, where he has to like go back like a certain amount of time to see what happened on a train,
Mhm.
um, or like the Assassin's Creed games where you see your ancestors' memories. The artificial memory thing also gave me like Blade Runner vibes, and like I was
Oh
really
yeah.
digging that. Have you ever seen Blade Runner?
Yeah, I've seen the original Blade Runner. It's such a good movie.
It's so great. Like that speech from a baddie where he's like the tears and rain speech. It's like
Hmm.
so well acted. I think that was even like improvised. Like I think he had like something else he was supposed to recite and then he just like made up some of that, which is amazing.
Yeah. Speaking of improvised, I'm pretty sure there was a moment improvised in this movie where
Oh yeah.
the fight scene with Hugh Jackman in one of the memories, because like he's taking a beating and it's just like Watts is kind of to the side, just kind of, you know, Hugh Jackman's like fighting off like these two goons while Watts is trying to like looking for something in the background, and then when they come out of the memory, it's just like he's just like, what do you think, I'm invincible or something? And Watts is just like, "Ugh, you it's like I'm sure you could handle it. You seem like an animal to me." And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they improvise that to be like, hey dude, this guy's Wolverine, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Like
Uh-huh.
you don't call Hugh Jackman an animal and not think of Wolverine. Like
Yeah,
that has to be
exactly.
intentional.
Especially them coming out in the one of the first few X-Men movies when he comes out of the tub like just covered in water. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
this movie reminds me so much of Wolverine.
Yeah, like they show it explicitly in X-Men Origins
Uh-huh.
Wolverine, and it's like, yeah, this had to be intentional, right? It feeds into the nostalgia thing, even though
Uh-huh.
like people don't particularly remember that particular movie fondly.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, like they end up fighting these people while they're investigating, and then like Hugh Jackman has to like go back into his memories to reanalyze the fights and see if there's like something he missed, like
Mhm.
any moves that he needs to analyze. And sometimes he like comes at a dead end and he gets really frustrated. So like Watts kind of has to be the one to calm him down, which I mean, it's kind of a trope that I'm kind of tired of seeing. Like, oh,
Mhm.
you have we have like a cool woman character, but it's kind of annoying that they had to like write her as the one who like usually has to calm him down, like instead of like, all just being fully in charge and be like, pull yourself together kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, that kind of like pleading, like just
Like, hey,
hey,
you're human. Like
you're
that
human.
type
Da,
of
da,
thing.
da. It usually feels like it's trying to like convey like this theme or this message. It's just like we're all human. We make mistakes. You don't think I get that, like stuff like that, but it's just like it feels more like a conduit for the words more than making her own character. Like I because Watts, and when we first introduced her, she seemed like this badass leader type.
Yeah,
Like
and
she
like
wasn't.
she has moments where she conveys her anger that are really cool,
Uh-huh.
and it's like, whoa, she has a fire in her. I like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. And then, you know, it sucks that sometimes movies kind of play into that like leading man and woman and just kind of those tropes of just like the woman has to calm down the man, or the man's getting too uppity and aggressive. So
Yeah, it kind of feels like maybe this could have intentionally been a commentary on that, you
Uh-huh.
know, because like this movie is a movie that looks backward, even though it takes place forward, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So it does feel like they touch upon that stuff, but by the end, I think Watts is more of her own character, and it's just like so triumphant seeing her be more of her own character.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely thought that. Like, especially in the fight at the end, she was so cool. Like, dude, the spin kick she did at the end, and just the camera shaking with it, and like the dude flying off the building, because you know how they're on top of those buildings.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I was like, damn, this character is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're fighting these guys who they track down because they're like
uh
they're like the ones who they figure are supposedly people who manipulate memories and like alter them or whatever. But by
uh
the end of the fight, like when Nick has like one of them, like the opponent is almost dead, and he reveals to Nick, "You idiot! We don't manipulate memorize memories. That was
uh
just a lie that we perpetuated to make people live in fear." And he does like a maniacal laugh. It's like, yo.
right, right. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was so good.
This guy was played by Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah, dude. I was just like, dude, is that Freddy? Like from wasn't he like Scooby Doo too in Scooby Doo?
Yeah, he played Fred Jones in the Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I was like, dude, wait, is that
The live
Fred
action one.
Jones? Yeah. I got confused for a second because the guy's also named Freddie Prinze Jr. and Fred. So I was like,
Yeah, I suspect that's probably why he got cast as Fred Jones.
uh-huh.
Well, what's funny is Sarah Michelle Gellar played Daphne in that, and
Uh-huh.
they got married and became like husband and wife. So yeah, and they eventually like voiced characters on Star Wars Rebels who were each other's enemies, which is pretty funny.
I actually wanted to take it back to the music section.
Oh yes,
Dude, the music, especially in the fight scenes, like the techno synthetic beats, like the aggressive and synthetic beats, are like I was in it, dude. You know what I was saying?
yeah. Because like for a movie like this, you kind of like, because it feels Christopher Nolan-esque, you kind of expect like the bassy type of thing from like Inception or Tenet. Hello, listeners. Editor Steven again. Oh, this mention of Tenet. Man, remember the Tenet episode last year that I recorded with Ben Hart? Oh, the plot to that was crazy. It was so confusing. There's some backwards stuff. It escalated quickly. Oh, what an episode. It was a trip. Like, you should listen to it if you haven't already. But okay, enough reminiscing. Without further delay, back to the episode. But this was, it felt fitting for the movie. It didn't feel too predictable. There were also some like soundtrack songs, like songs that you would hear on the radio in really old eras that people are familiar with, which kind of feeds into the theme of this movie. Like, you know, there's that scene where it's raining and you hear the song that goes, "Raindrops keep falling on my head," but it's played in like a slow motion, kind of haunting manner, which I really dug.
And I really like those two within the memories in the beginning when Hugh Jackman's character and May were in those memories, and like you can kind of just hear like some Frank Sinatra in the background, just kind of like if they're playing it in their house, and it's just like, "Come fly with me, we'll fly away." Those like really nice upbeat swing songs. I was like, oh man, this is nice.
Yeah, they're like experiencing fond memories together.
Yeah.
Like it feels like I don't know if you've ever watched The Dark Crystal, but like it reminds me of how the Gelflings can dream fast. Like they can hold hands and share memories that way, which is really cool. So that was a very tender moment at the beginning of the movie, and it's kind of sad though because it's a stark contrast to when, like at the end, like Nick finally confronts May and he's like, "I know who you are now," and you could just see how heartbroken he is, the tears he's shedding because he finally knows like her true self, and it's
Hmm.
just like I wouldn't know how to deal with that type of thing, man.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. It was crazy too, because the most mind-blowing part of this movie is like when he's confronting her. It's just like, I know who you are now. And you could tell how within that conspiracy to make everyone live in fear, and like all the water from the city just disappeared, and they're just in this rundown, broken Miami. And like the whole set is like setting scape changed, and it gave me that Blade Runner vibes, in the end of the movie where he was like, am I a robot? Like, am I
Yeah, an
or am I
android.
human? Am I an android? Yeah. And then it was just like getting that sense is just like, is he living a memory or is this real life? Like, it was crazy. And I'm like, dude, I gotta give it to them how they just didn't straight up answer the movie. Also Nolan-y, where like the end of Inception where they just don't answer. You're just like, wait, I want to know, is this a memory or is this like is this actual life?
Yeah, because there's that cryptic line where she tells him, "You've lived a really long life, haven't
Uh-huh.
you?" Which again also kind of reminds me of Wolverine as well, because of how
Uh-huh.
old he is. But it's like you could sort of run with the theory of like, is he really old, and this is a memory that someone is having him relive? Like, is he trapped in here, or
Uh-huh.
like, what's going on? Like, why did the water disappear? It's
Yeah.
like it's kind of a frustrating ending for me because like I kind of figured because of how mind bendy the movie was, it could
Uh,
potentially end with something like this, where it feels kind of abrupt, but you also kind of expect it to be ambiguous. So like, I kind of have mixed feelings about the ending, but like
yeah.
you really enjoyed this type of ending, right?
I do. I really like those like just mind-bendy movies. I just kind of like being taken for a ride. And it's like I said, it's just the more you watch it, like the more I'm pretty sure the more I hop into that memory machine and relive this movie, the more I'm just gonna find clues. Because the first few times you watch it with these types of movies, it's just like everything just comes out of nowhere. But the most fun thing about these movies is like once you know the ending, you start to see the hints everywhere, and you're
Yeah.
just like, oh damn, like maybe I'm reading a little too into it. Maybe some of these things that I'm looking up aren't actual hints, but I don't know. I tend to have fun with like these like movies that seem like a puzzle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that does remind me of like a David Lynch movie, like Mulholland Drive, where what I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but
Uh,
it's really a trip. It's like once you see the ending, you're like, wait, what? And then like when you watch it again, you're like, oh, there were these hints right here. This means that, and it's like it's definitely a case by case basis, but stuff like that could definitely make it a more fulfilling experience upon rewatching. And it's nice that there are like these rewatch bonuses, where like there will be hints here and there, like sometimes they're intentional by like the filmmakers, and if they're intentional that makes it all the more meaningful because I do abide by the belief that like ultimately like what the filmmaker says is like what it is.
mhm.
Or I guess, I mean, it gets complicated because it could be like, oh, they're directors or writers, and they might have conflicting opinions. And so it's a messy thing we don't have to get into. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely like a lot of room for speculation for this type of thing.
Yeah, I think people are going to be speculating this movie for a long time.
Yeah, they'll be reminiscing about reminisced. Yeah, but unless there's anything else you want to go over, we could go into final thoughts and score out of 10.
Let's see. We got through the music. We got through the some of my favorite mind-bending moments. I will say though, the cinematography at points with some of those action scenes, I think it's a trend with like newer movies where they kind of like shake it all the time.
Yeah, that's been happening
I
with a lot of recent
Oh
movies.
yeah, I kind of hope that they would just kind of chill it a bit with that with some of the movies going forward, because like no lie, I can get nauseous a bit too.
Yeah, reliving watching that in the theater was pretty uncomfortable for me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just I love reminiscing on reminiscing, but I did not like reliving those pukey
Yeah.
moments. Luckily, I never puked, but
Yeah, because like I didn't eat right before going into the machine again, but it was
uh-huh.
weird because like you have those memories of eating again, even though it's not going back into you, and so thankfully, like I didn't feel as like sick this time, like watching that moment
Oh
again.
yeah. I definitely don't envy someone who would eat an entire box of Pizza Hut before going into that machine to relive that movie because it's gonna be a rough ride, my guy.
Oh yeah. Hey, listeners, editor Steven again. Oh man, this talk of shaky cam, there's been a bunch of shaky cam in some movies, right? Like, remember that one time when I had Mr. Multiverse on the show? He's been here like several times, but remember when we talked about, what was it? I think it was the Snake Eyes episode. There's some shaky cam in that, I think. Yeah, go and listen to that and confirm to me if I'm remembering correctly. Enough reminiscing. Without further delay, back to the episode.
All right, yeah, I'm ready for final thoughts. I thought the cinematography could use a little work. Loved the music. I was super into the storytelling because it was just taking me on a ride. I was going to so many different places. One thing I didn't even get to talk about quickly, but I'll just say it quickly right now, is just that the colors in the movie, the colors they decided to pick, just I really liked it. I actually really like color theory and just like the color wheel. So just those dark colors, the like lights and like some of the browns in there, just the contrasting colors was really nice. So I'm gonna give it 8 memory chambers out of 10.
Nice. And really spooky because that was also the score I was going to give it. Yeah, I thought this was a really mind-bendy movie.
uh-huh.
It was refreshing that it didn't feel too pretentious. Like
Mhm.
it still had moments where it felt kind of fun. I feel like it definitely delved into some of that nostalgia, but not in a way where it felt like it was bonking you on the head too much with it, like Stranger Things season 3 did.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I really enjoyed this movie. Like even though I have mixed feelings about the ending, it's definitely one that makes you think, and like the acting was great all around. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give this 8 out of 10 security cameras.
Good one. Yeah, it looks like we were on like the same, like we're on the same mind wave right there.
Yeah, we're in the same memory, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Like I'll end up like having the same score in mind as like the other person, which is really weird. But hey, listeners, editor Steven again. Oh man, the thing where like me and the guest give the same score for something, it happens sometimes. Like remember on that recent episode about Skate Jam when me and Star Raptor gave the same score to that movie? I think that's what happened. I don't know. Am I remembering incorrectly? Go back and listen and let me know. Okay, enough reminiscing. Now, without further delay, back to the episode. Yeah, thanks for reminiscing about reminiscing with me, Marco. Where can people
No,
find your stuff?
no problem, bud. Well, oh my gosh, I do a lot of things. So, I am a technical consultant for the podcast Undecided Underprepared. I edit the podcast Just Two Lads with Kelsey and Andres, who have been here before. So if you want to hear my editing prowess, you can check them out there. And then I also have a YouTube channel called OddMarc TV. And I review games and I just make a bunch of dumb, funny jokes about the games. So yeah, you can find that at OddMarc TV, or you can look up Not Another Game Review. And that's the name of my game review series.
Yeah, and the links to these will be in the show notes of this episode as usual. And yeah, great work on like the editing stuff. I mean, like I know you like I guess went through a black hole and then ended up here somehow in the form of a human instead of robot.
Oh yeah, yeah. The adventures that my editing robot self gets into, I turn into a robot when I start
Yeah.
editing the Just Two Lads podcast. So those adventures are crazy. Like you just heard, I went through a black hole. So check that
Yeah.
out. And check out my YouTube channel because it's just been taken over by an evil chihuahua.
Oh dang, I need to catch up on that because like I've seen like the episode where you talk about weird video game commercials. It's like
Uh-huh.
yeah, these are kind of weird, but some of them do look like really cool. Like it's strange how wide ranging the production value is for like
Oh yeah.
commercials.
Oh yeah, especially the older commercials. Like it was like a free for all with old video game commercials. They could just be crazy as hell, dude.
Yeah, like I bet it's lots of fun for you to reminisce about all those video games.
It was definitely a lot of fun to reminisce during that time.
Right. All right. Well, thanks again. And as for my plugs, people can follow me at Steven Shinder on Instagram and Twitter, Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. You can go to stevenshinder.com to look up info on my book, Lemons Will Like Rain. More info to come on the next one when there's news about that. And if you want to email this podcast, you can email delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about, I don't know, like go ahead and reminisce about some good memories, I guess. We need to hear some good memories to make us feel good, I
Oh
guess.
yeah.
And yeah, and I'm also on a podcast with my dad called Yes Shift. It's all one word, YESSHIFT. We talk about, or I guess we reminisce about the 53-year-old progressive rock band Yes and all the different twists and turns they've taken in their history and some current news regarding them. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. And anything else I might be involved with, I'll just link in the show notes. Like you, Marco, I'm involved with like a bunch of different things, and sometimes like I don't know if like oh am I doing this thing that week or this week? It's just yeah, it's chaos.
It's hard when you're a Renaissance man, my guy.
Right. Hey, listeners, editors, Steven again. Oh man, this mention of Renaissance man. I think Andres called me that on the anniversary episode a few months ago. Oh, that was a fun episode. Like really, wow, like wild. Like listening to versions of ourselves from another universe talking about podcasts that didn't get off the ground. It was so weird. Okay, enough reminiscing about that episode where we were reminiscing about a year of delayed replay. Without further delay, back to the episode. Yeah, but yeah, I guess that'll do it. And the next episode will be about the 7th Mission Impossible movie. So yeah, it'll be fun reminiscing about the movies before that and like that movie itself. But yeah, I think we've said reminisce enough times on this episode. So without further delay, have a good day.
See you, everybody.
I am Robot Steven. Not from the future, but from another universe where the 2020s are in our past, and since then some of us have become robotic. Oh, it was so much fun intercepting this episode from another universe and reminiscing about the same exact episode pretty much being recorded in our universe. Looking back, it was the greatest summer of my life. Okay, now I will go find my robot friends again. Without further delay, have a good future.